Well, I mean, I wasn't happy when he equalled my 7. I mean,
Right.
you know, I mean, people asked me before, and I said, no, I don't want. Of course, I don't want him to equal my record. It was my record. When I was talking to Ronnie on the thing, and I said, surely you must now. It's all about winning 8, right? Because when I won 6 to equal Steve, the next day I said I have to win 7. Ronnie being Ronnie, he deflected it a little bit and didn't want to admit, but I know he does. I know he wants to win 8. And then he will be the GOAT, obviously.
The snooker world faces an unprecedented question as the 2025 World Championship approaches. Will Ronnie O'Sullivan compete? The 7-time world champion hasn't been seen in tournament play since his dramatic exit from January's Championship League, where frustration led him to smash his cue. This incident marked the beginning of an extended absence that has seen him miss every major event since, including the Masters, where he was defending champion. Stephen Hendry, another 7-time Crucible king, remains convinced O'Sullivan will appear. "I've got a sneaky suspicion he is going to play." Hendry said this on the Snooker Club podcast. He went further, suggesting O'Sullivan could achieve the unthinkable. Ronnie just decides he's going to turn up at the Worlds and wins it. It would be an unbelievable story, and he's that good. Hendry's confidence stems from history. In 2013, O'Sullivan took a year-long sabbatical before returning to claim the world title. Hendry recalled their exchange at the time. He messaged me and said, "Do you think I can still come back and do it?" I said, "Of course you can. All you need is a month's solid practice." The Scot believes the same formula could work now, though acknowledges greater challenges. He was a much younger man, and there weren't the players around that are in such form. The current snooker landscape features multiple in-form contenders. Judd Trump has dominated the season, while Kieran Wilson defends his world title. Neil Robertson and John Higgins have rediscovered their best games, and Mark Selby remains a perennial threat. Hendry initially tipped Selby before considering O'Sullivan's potential. There's 6 or 7 easily you could count, and maybe more that are capable of winning it.
Who could stop the Rocket winning the 8th? 2 players that have beaten him this season, both in his half of the draw. Jang Anda, who lost. Mark Williams beat him in the Tour Championship final, lost. He's got Judd Trump in the semi-final, possibly, if both make it through. Judd hasn't beaten him, I think, since 2020. Ronnie, after his press conference, was very, very sort of confident. He's going to keep playing, see what he can win. So yeah, big message thrown out to the likes of Trump, Mark Allen, Mark Selby, who also lost, by the way, shadow of his former self. Whether that was a veiled message, as with a few of them possible breakaways happening. We'll have to keep our eyes open for that. Listen, the big question, as always, who could stop the Rocket winning the 8th?
Bookmakers share Hendry's cautious optimism. Betfair lists O'Sullivan as 7-1 joint favorite alongside Trump and Wilson. Remarkable odds for a player who hasn't competed in months. The betting reflects both O'Sullivan's unparalleled talent and his proven ability to triumph after breaks. Equipment concerns linger. O'Sullivan destroyed his previous cue during January's meltdown, leaving questions about his current setup. Hendry said, "I don't know what his cue situation is because he smashed his last one." However, he maintained that with proper preparation, the tool matters less than the craftsman. If he had a month behind closed doors, practicing, putting the work in, getting himself sharp, then of course, he can. Parallel to the Crucible speculation, a rule change opens new possibilities for O'Sullivan and his class of 92 peers. From May 2025, professionals over 45 ranked in the top 64 can compete on the World Seniors Tour. This clears the way for O'Sullivan, Mark Williams, and John Higgins, all turning 50 this year, to potentially contest both the World Championship and World Seniors Championship in consecutive weeks at the Crucible.
Ronnie O'Sullivan and Mark Williams are really exceptional, weird people. Which one of the 3 of the class 92 are going to crack up first? They are so good, and they've been so good for so long that they've given us the opportunity to enjoy which one of them is going to crack up first. The reason why it could be John out of the 3 of them is that he's the most normal human being. Ronnie O'Sullivan and Mark Williams are really exceptional, weird people. John is less weird and more of a normal competitor style. But the other 2 are enigmas. You can't understand Ronnie O'Sullivan, you can't understand Mark Williams. How is he still winning?
It's unbelievable.
It's stupid.
Jason Francis, chairman of World Senior Snooker, confirmed, From next season, any pro player over 45 can accept an invitation or enter a qualifier for a TV seniors event. That is provided it is staged on a day of no World Snooker Tour event. He emphasized the opportunity. Seniors now has the chance to use the bigger names to stage more events with more players. That means more prize money and more opportunities for amateur players. Dare to dream. The trio boasts 14 world titles between them and all remain in the world's top 6. Their potential participation could revolutionize senior snooker, currently dominated by Igor Figueiredo and 4-time winner Jimmy White. Dennis Taylor, the 1985 world champion, joined Hendry in backing O'Sullivan's Crucible chances. Taylor told this to Betway, "It would be a hell of a thing to do, but the talent he has, you can't put it past him." He referenced O'Sullivan's 2013 comeback. "He proved it the last time when he came back and won it, so you can't count it out. It's difficult to pick, but if Ronnie plays, I'm still going to have him as favorite." Taylor's comments highlight the central paradox surrounding O'Sullivan. His lack of match practice would cripple most players, but his natural ability transcends conventional preparation. The timeline adds urgency. With O'Sullivan not qualifying for the upcoming Tour Championship, the Crucible represents his next possible appearance. His uninterrupted participation since 1993 makes withdrawal unthinkable for many fans. Hendry's sneaky suspicion suggests the streak will continue, but O'Sullivan's silence keeps everyone guessing. Financial incentives remain substantial. The World Championship winner earns £500,000, while the seniors event offers £15,000 to its champion. For O'Sullivan, however, the motivation has always been about legacy rather than money. An 8th world title would extend his record and further cement his status as snooker's greatest. The Q incident in January revealed O'Sullivan's ongoing frustration with perfectionism. His standards remain astronomically high, and any equipment issues could derail his preparation. Yet Hendry's comments suggest belief in O'Sullivan's ability to overcome this hurdle. Of course, he would be one of the top 2 or 3 favorites to win it. It would be incredible. Opponents face a psychological challenge. Trump, Wilson, and others have built momentum through the season, but O'Sullivan's aura alone changes dynamics. His mere presence at the Crucible would shift betting markets and tournament narratives instantly.
One he's drilled in this evening was exceptional. And there's another one. Oh, and what a shot he played there, by the way. Magnificent. And it was played here.
The snooker world witnessed an unexpected clash between 2 of Scotland's greatest players when 7-time world champion Stephen Hendry publicly criticized John Higgins' playing style during the 2024 Players' Championship in Telford. The tension began when Hendry, serving as an ITV pundit, didn't mince words about Higgins' performance against eventual tournament winner Judd Trump.
Played it beautifully. Deserves to be on a red. Certainly a nice strike of the pack. Had the disappointment. Well, how do you get that much check side on a ball?
You don't often see that. That is one of the best positional shots you'll ever see, using the jaw. You would never...
Hendry's analysis was blunt. He said, "I never thought I'd say this, but John Higgins is a tough watch at the moment. Whether he is low on confidence, he is not playing well at all. 32 seconds a shot is not good." The snooker legend went further with his critique, comparing Higgins' struggles to Trump's fluid style. It is almost like he is getting in his own way. The difference is when Judd gets in, everything just flows. Every shot with John is a pint of blood. He's putting so much effort into even the easiest shots, and that is a sign to me of someone low on confidence. Higgins, who had reached the semifinals with hard-fought 6-5 victories over Mark Williams and Mark Allen before falling 6-4 to Trump, didn't take the criticism lightly. The 4-time world champion fired back in his post-match interview saying, "I've heard people like Hendry now saying that I've got to speed up. He's a cracker, so he is. When you get a little bit older, you are just a little bit cautious. You are trying to work on a couple of things. You are nearly 50 and are still competing with the boys. I bet you wish they were doing the same, but hey-ho. The exchange took a humorous turn when Hendry appeared on the World Snooker Tour's Snooker Club podcast. Host Mark Watson asked, "Hendry, do you now see Kyron Wilson as a potential favorite for the Crucible, despite how difficult it is to win it for the second time after your debut win?" Seizing on Higgins' use of his surname, Hendry said, "You can call me Hendry. That's what Higgins called me in his post-match interview, so you can call me Hendry. He surnamed me." The moment drew laughter from both Hendry and Watson, who responded, "I've been watching you inter-Scottish players with interest, by the way." Hendry later defended his role as a pundit, stating, "If I didn't say what I had seen, then I'd be a pretty boring pundit. If I just complimented the players all the time, then I wouldn't be doing my job properly." He acknowledged Higgins' achievements in the tournament, saying, "John did incredibly well to win his first two matches, both 6-5, coming through two titanic struggles." However, he maintained his stance on Higgins' pace of play, saying, "At his best, John Higgins is a 23 or 24-second a shot player. I just thought, to get back into the Judd match, he needed to try and speed up a bit." This wasn't Hendry's first high-profile criticism of a fellow professional in 2024. Earlier in the year, he had called out Neil Robertson for slow play during the Masters. Robertson, who staged a dramatic 6-5 comeback against Higgins in that event, couldn't resist a dig at Hendry afterward. "Yeah, I don't think Stephen Hendry is going to give me too much stick about that one," he said, prompting laughter from the 2,000-strong crowd at Alexandra Palace. The Australian doubled down after his Players' Championship victory over Mark Selby, adding, "I think Stephen Hendry is quite happy about that as well." Robertson's own relationship with snooker's biggest stage became another talking point after he failed to qualify for the 2024 World Championship. The 2010 World Champion has been vocal about his dissatisfaction with Sheffield's Crucible Theatre, where he hasn't progressed beyond the quarterfinals since 2014. In 2022, Robertson argued for moving the tournament. "I think we have to be careful of tradition. There are a lot of sports that have suffered because of that and been too stubborn to move on. The one-table setup is really special, but there's definitely room for improvement in the two-table setup. We have to move with the times. I don't think the championships should continue at the Crucible itself." Professional player Stephen Hallworth believes Robertson's attitude toward the venue has become detrimental. He's let his dislike of the venue impact his performances. It's a hurdle he has to overcome. Robertson found an unlikely ally in Hossein Vafaye, who launched a scathing attack on the Crucible in 2024. He said, "Everything's so bad. If you ask me if I want to come back here, I would tell you no way. Forget the history, you want to go somewhere really nice as a player. You walk around the Crucible and it smells really bad. You go to other countries and everything is shiny. But here, it's completely different. The practice room. Do you see anything special? I feel like I'm practicing in a garage."
Marking resounding
Beautifully. So back in.
Reds. As he made it and might need a help off the yellow. Yes, he's got it. What a shot.
As you play on here, he's got to go into them.
Former world champion Dennis Taylor has dismissed concerns that Ronnie O'Sullivan and Judd Trump's decisions to relocate to Asia will damage snooker in the UK. O'Sullivan, 49, was granted residency in Hong Kong in January, while Trump regularly splits his time between Hong Kong and Dubai. With two of the sport's biggest stars leaving Britain, some have worried about the potential impact on the game's standing in the UK.
Judd Trump into his 35th world ranking final, looking to win his 23rd title.
People said that it was a good effort to come back so strongly. And look at this shot. This has always been a shot that I think he invented this shot.
However, Taylor believes these concerns are unfounded. He points to snooker's growing global popularity as evidence that the relocations will not harm the sport in its traditional homeland. Both players have cited the rich cultures and cuisine of these regions as factors in their decisions to move abroad. They also pointed to the increasing number of snooker competitions and events taking place in Asia and the Middle East. Ronnie O'Sullivan was granted residency in Hong Kong in January. The move coincides with his separation from soap star girlfriend Layla Ruas. who appeared in BBC's EastEnders. The 7-time world champion has swapped his home in Chigwell for the Special Administrative Region of China. O'Sullivan has been a regular visitor to Hong Kong over the years, as it has hosted several snooker tournaments. He famously won the Hong Kong Masters in 2022, beating Marco Fu 6-4 in the final. After the victory, he posted on Instagram, "Loved this week in Hong Kong. Such an amazing event with brilliant fans. Great place for some running too. Congrats to Marco Fu 147 who played some lovely snooker all week in a tough final. Look forward to being back next time." Now O'Sullivan's stay is more permanent thanks to a quality migrant admission scheme. This allows him to establish a base in the region where he conducts much of his business. Judd Trump has also relocated to Asia, regularly splitting his time between Hong Kong and Dubai. Trump lives with his Hong Kongese figure skating girlfriend Maisie Ma. She is a 7-time Hong Kong champion and competed at the ISU Championships and Asian Winter Games, where she finished 10th in 2017. At 25 years old, she is 9 years younger than Trump. She has nearly 180,000 Instagram followers and frequently shares content on her social media channels, though Trump does not feature in any of her posts to date. Maisie also works as a coach and has worked on TV, having hosted live coverage of the Winter Olympics in 2022. Like O'Sullivan, Trump secured residency by passing through Hong Kong's migrant scheme. This has allowed him to establish a base closer to where many snooker events now take place. Dennis Taylor has dismissed the idea that O'Sullivan and Trump's moves to Asia could harm snooker in the UK. Speaking to The Express, he said, "There's very few players moving abroad. It is always players moving to the UK from abroad, and that's been happening since the days of Eddie Charlton, who did over 100 trips from Australia." The former world champion added, "I don't think it impacts the game in the UK. It's not just a UK game anyways now, it's a worldwide game growing all over the world, so it's not going to impact that." Taylor's comments suggest he sees the sport's international growth as a positive development rather than a threat to its UK roots. He views the global expansion of snooker as a natural progression for the sport. Taylor emphasized the sport's healthy position in the UK despite the departure of 2 major stars. He said, "The fact that the BBC signed up for another 7 years shows the game is healthy and is growing all over the world." This long-term commitment from the national broadcaster represents a significant vote of confidence in snooker's future in Britain. The former world champion also pointed to increasing audience figures as evidence of the sport's continued popularity. Taylor added, "The viewing figures and the crowds are getting bigger. The game is in good shape, so there isn't much wrong with the sport." His assessment suggests that despite the relocation of star players like O'Sullivan and Trump, the fundamentals of snooker in Britain remain strong. The sport continues to attract audiences and maintain its traditional base of support. O'Sullivan has offered several reasons for his decision to relocate to Hong Kong. A practical consideration is that much of his work now takes place in the region. He stated, "I probably do about 70% of my work in China and Asia now, so I have to make a life here. I have to make a home. If you work a long time in a certain place, you need to make it as comfortable as possible." The move makes practical sense for O'Sullivan, with events like the Shanghai Masters, International Championship, and the Xi'an Grand Prix all held in China. The World Grand Prix will be held at Kai Tak Sports Park, located in the east of Hong Kong, in 2025. Financial considerations also played a role in his decision. O'Sullivan mentioned the low tax for foreigners as one of the main driving factors for his move. He will still have to pay income tax, but the rates are considered among the very best in a devolved economy.
Think I've seen this man before. The Rocket, Ronnie O'Sullivan, the greatest snooker player that's ever lived, and possibly one of the most highly achieving sports people Great Britain has ever produced. An absolute wonder to behold in full flow, capable of doing things on the snooker table that most other players could only imagine, if they could imagine them at all. Right-handed, left-handed. The class of 90.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, the 7-time world snooker champion, has not played a competitive match since January 2025. Widely regarded as the greatest player in the history of the sport, his prolonged absence has sparked growing concern among fans and pundits alike. The 49-year-old's hiatus began after a disappointing performance at the Championship League, where he smashed his cue during a defeat to Robert Milkins. Since then, He has withdrawn from multiple tournaments, citing health reasons, leaving his future in the sport uncertain. O'Sullivan's last competitive appearance was at the Championship League in January 2025. After losing 4 of his 5 group matches, he snapped his cue and left the tournament prematurely. This marked the beginning of a series of withdrawals that have dominated headlines. He subsequently pulled out of the Masters, one of snooker's most prestigious events, just over a day before his scheduled match against John Higgins. O'Sullivan cited exhaustion from a grueling 3-week trip to the Far East and Saudi Arabia as the reason for his withdrawal. He even worked as a pundit for the BBC during the tournament, explaining that the demanding schedule had left him physically and mentally drained.